Welcome back. I'm still with Isabel Oakeshott, Talk's excellent international editor. Right, we need to talk about Trump. We've only got 10 minutes. I don't know how we'll fit it all in. Well, let's talk about home affairs first. His tariff war, forget about Mexico and Canada and all that. I mean, very interesting to them. But what about us? He's really making his hatred of the EU clear, responded by threatening to respond to their tariffs on America with a 200% tariff on exports of French booze. I have a brother-in-law who lives in Bordeaux. He is a wine trader, sells a lot of wine to America. He's not very happy at the moment. I mean, this is terrifying stuff. But, I'm a big fan of Trump. I'm not sure quite where he's going with all this tariff stuff, but I do think it's incumbent upon a nation, if America turns around and says, here's a 25% tariff, you go, right, we hit you back with it. You can't just roll over. No other country in the world is. The EU is responding with tariffs on America. Canada has hit back. Canada's hit back very hard, saying we're going to cut your electricity off unless you're careful. Mexico has hit back. What have we done? We're keeping a cool head. Jonathan Reynolds, we're looking for a wider trade deal. This is nonsense. He's hit us with a 25% tariff on British steel and British aluminium. Absolutely devastating to that already shrinking industry. We have to do something, not talk about a wider trade deal. I think he's laughing at us.
Well, this is not a guy who responds to nicey, is he? I think we know that. He certainly expects to be treated with respect, and that's fine, even if the people on the other side of the debate don't always get the same courtesy. We ought to know by now how this man operates and how he ticks, and he actually respects a bit of hardball. He doesn't respect countries or leaders that just sort of roll over, as you say. We've got to fight fire with fire whilst keeping everything civilized and maintaining cheery relations. We've got to demonstrate that we're not going to be trampled all over. And this is somebody who responds very well to that kind of, well, you do this and I'll do that. And eventually we'll thrash it out and we'll all be friends again.
Yes, that's the way he operates, and that is the dynamic that is dictating proceedings in terms of the Ukraine peace talks, which are in a lot of trouble now. Here's where I think the problem lies. Zelensky and Ukraine have basically bowed to all of Trump's demands. And I'm pleased about this. I like the fact that Trump is seeking peace aggressively. I want that war to end. Who wants hundreds of thousands of young men to die in those frozen fields in the east? Just horrific. So it's good that he's doing this, but I think the problem we've encountered now is, okay, if you like, Trump and Vance and the gang, Rubio and all the gang, they've sorted out Ukraine. Zelensky's basically said, whatever you want, I'll do it. Yes, 30-day ceasefire, no conditions, no questions asked, fine. So Ukraine's sorted. Now it's on to Russia. Now, I think the problem here is Putin's going, you think I'm like Ukraine? You think I'm like Zelensky, that you're pulling all the strings? You're going to tell me what to do? And how has Putin responded since Ukraine agreed to the 30-day ceasefire? It unleashed a kind of hellfire on Kiev. It took back Kursk. Putin went down there wearing military fatigues and announced that all Ukrainian soldiers must be treated as terrorists. Meanwhile, Sergei Lavrov declares that no peacekeeping troops, British, French or anyone else, will ever be allowed into Ukraine. The rest is history. In other words, Sergei Lavrov, by the way, also saying that he doesn't see peace coming for a long time. Now, meanwhile, Trump has turned around and said he's threatening devastating financial sanctions on Russia. You forget it. They've had devastating financial sanctions for 3 years. Won't make any difference. So I hate to say it, but I think that the Russians the Ukrainians have demonstrated what Trump wanted. She said, Zelensky, show me you're sincere about wanting peace. I think Zelensky's done that, and that's why America has restored military assistance to Ukraine. He then requires Russia to be sincere about peace, and frankly it isn't. I hate to say it, but I agree with Sergei Lavrov. Peace is a long way off.
Well, that is mightily depressing, because I think what we all hoped after that pretty unseemly showdown in the Oval Office with Zelensky is that there was some kind of grander aim here, a bigger picture, and it might all somehow work out. I mean, Putin has had the kind of second mover advantage in this one, because he saw what Trump did to Zelensky, and he saw how Zelensky mishandled it, and he now perceives Zelensky to be tremendously weak and exposed. And Putin's doing what Putin does, which is taking advantage of that opportunity. And it's in a way disappointing to hear that the best that Trump can come up with is that there'll be tremendous punitive sanctions. I'm not sure what there is left to sanction. I mean, these sanctions have already been imposed. The one thing that is clear there to be plundered, as it were, is this £300 billion worth of frozen Russian assets. And if we find a way of releasing those, I think there's all sorts of complex legalities around that. That would have a lot of oligarchs squealing. But beyond that, I'm not really sure what Trump can do economically that can make Russia more vulnerable than it already is. I mean, Russia's still got plenty of customers. Trade with China is booming, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. And of course, Russia's also made it clear, absolutely no, they won't accept Ukraine coming within a mile of joining NATO, as I say, no peacekeeping forces. And of course, territorially, they want everything that they ever demanded. So, Donbass, etc. And of course, they've already got Crimea. So their territorial demands alone, I think, are going to be very difficult for Zelensky. So Russia is going to prove to be one hell of a hurdle. And as I say, in the end, it will be Putin saying, I'm not Zelensky, I'm not Ukraine, you're not pushing me around, and if you think you're pulling the strings, maybe you've got another thing coming. And as I say, I admire what Trump's doing, but I suspect that he really did think that he was pulling all the strings and orchestrating this great peace. And I think that Putin always decided, not with me, you're not.
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, he's basically said it. He said, I'm up for peace, but only on my terms. Well, I mean, that's what a war is, isn't it? I get what I want by killing people and screwing your country and flattening everything, and then I'll say it's peace because I've got what I wanted.
And that famous Ronald Reagan phrase. Ronald Reagan actually came up with so many great statements. He said, "Peace is easy. All you got to do is surrender." Which is sort of Ukraine's predicament, I think.
Yeah, that's right. And no chance does Putin want any headlines saying that he's surrendered. So, I mean, there may be an awful lot of showmanship going on in coming days and maybe even in coming weeks. And perhaps there is still a resolution sooner than later. But let's see what further cards the president of the USA has left to play.
Yeah, and to try to end on a more optimistic note, the American delegation is on its way to Moscow next week, and perhaps they can thrash something out. You never know. I mean, where we're in the dark is what really is in Trump's mind and what really is in Putin's mind. Perhaps, maybe, hopefully, peace is on the way, but I think we should not bet the farm on that. I think the situation is a little bit worse than it was a few days ago. Isabel, fantastic to talk to you as always. Have a great weekend. We will talk again next week.